Land Rover Discovery 3 2004 to 2009. On April 2, 2004, Land Rover introduced the Discovery 3, marketed as the LR3 in North America and the Middle East, and had its international debut at the British International Motor Show in May. It retained the key features of the Discovery, such as the stepped roofline and steeply raked windscreen. The LR3 name was chosen for North American and Middle Eastern markets due to negative quality associations with the Discovery name and, according to Land Rover, a preference in the American market for alphanumeric model designations. The second-generation Freelander was also redesignated for the North American and Middle Eastern market as the LR2. Land Rover developed a body construction method for the Discovery 3, marketed as Integrated Body Frame, IBF. The engine bay and passenger compartment are built as a monocoque, then mated to a basic ladder frame chassis for the gearbox and suspension. Land Rover claims IBF combines the virtues of monocoque and ladder frame, though it makes for a heavier vehicle than a monocoque construction, compromising performance and agility somewhat but adding strength, toughness and adaptability. Facelift Land Rover Discovery 3 TDV6 say. Note, body color trimmings, redesigned wheels, and clear fender-mounted indicator lenses. The LR3 features full independent suspension, FIS. Like the Range Rover L322, this is an air suspension system, enabling a ride height adjustment by simply pumping up or deflating the airbags. The vehicle can be raised to provide ground clearance when off-road, but lowered at high speeds to improve handling. Land Rover developed cross-linked air suspension. When needed, the suspension mimics the action of a beam axle. As one wheel drops, the other rises. If the chassis of the vehicle contacts the ground when the suspension was at its off-road height, the system senses the reduction in load on the air springs and raises the vehicle an extra inch. In the UK and European markets, a coil spring independent suspension system was offered on the base model. This model was unique in the range by having only 5 seats and only being available with a 2.7-liter diesel engine. This model lacked the terrain response system. The engines used in the Discovery 3 were all taken from Land Rover's sister company at the time, Jaguar. A Ford PSA developed 2.7-liter, 195 horsepower, 145 kilowatts, 440 Nm V6 diesel engine. The TDV6 was intended to be the biggest seller in Europe. For the US market and as the high-performance option elsewhere, a 4.4-liter petrol V8 of 300 horsepower, 220 kilowatts, was chosen. A 216 horsepower, 161 kilowatts, 4.0-liter SOC Ford V6 petrol engine was available in North America and Australia. The gearboxes on the Discovery 3 were also all new. For the diesel engine, a 6-speed manual transmission was standard. As an option, and as standard on the V8 engine, a 6-speed automatic transmission was available. Both came with a 2-speed transfer box and permanent 4-wheel drive. A computer-controlled progressively locking central differential ensured traction was retained in tough conditions. A similar differential was available on the rear axle to aid traction. The Discovery 3 was fitted with multiple electronic traction control systems. Hill descent control, HDC, prevented vehicle runaways when descending steep gradients, and 4-wheel electronic traction control, 4 etc., prevented wheel spin in low traction conditions. An on-road system, dynamic stability control, DSC, prevented skidding when steering and braking at speed. The vehicle also featured the terrain response system. Previously, off-road driving had been a skill that many drivers found daunting. A wide-ranging knowledge of the vehicle was needed to be able to select the correct gear, transfer ratio, various differential systems and master various techniques required for tackling steep hills, deep water and other tough terrain. Terrain response attempted to take away as many of the difficulties as possible. The driver selected a terrain type, sand, grass, gravel and snow, mud and ruts and rock crawl, on a dial in the cab of the vehicle. The onboard computer systems then select the correct gearbox settings, adjust the suspension height, adjust the differential lock settings and even alter the throttle response of the engine suitable for the terrain. For example, in rock crawl, the suspension is raised to its maximum height and set to allow maximum wheel articulation, the differentials are locked, the driver is prompted to switch to low range, and the throttle response is altered to provide low speed control. In sand mode, the traction control system is primed to be more sensitive to wheel spin, the differentials are partly locked, and the throttle response is remapped to produce high power outputs with short pedal movement. The driver retained some manual control over the off-road systems, being able to select the transfer box ratio and the suspension height manually, although use of the terrain response system is needed to allow full use of the vehicle's capabilities. As well as new mechanical and electronic systems, the Discovery 3 introduced a new design to the interior and exterior of the vehicle. The Discovery 3 was able to have a fresh, minimalist style. The interior featured a flexible 7-seat layout. Passengers in the rearmost row now entered through the rear side doors, instead of the tailgate as in previous versions. The driver benefited from a DVD navigation system, including some optional features like Bluetooth telephony in later models. Like the Range Rover, this audio, information and entertainment, infotainment, system in the Discovery 3 adopted an electronics architecture whereby the system's distributed control units pass information and audio amongst one another and throughout the vehicle via optical links based on the MOST, or Media-Oriented Systems Transport, fiber optic automotive networking standard, informally called the MOST bus. The system's navigation functions were unique to Land Rover because, in addition to the typical road map navigation, benefits included an off-road navigation and four-wheel drive information mode. When in four-wheel drive information mode, the screen showed a schematic of the vehicle, displaying the amount of suspension movement, angle the front wheels were steering, the status of the locking differentials and icons showing which mode the terrain response was in, and what gear was selected on automatic versions. The vehicle was lauded by the press, with the terrain response system, improved on-road dynamics, and interior design receiving particular praise. Jeremy Clarkson of the BBC's Top Gear motoring show drove one to the top of Knock-in-Friseden, a 307 meters, 1,007 feet, mountain near Tongue in northern Scotland, where no vehicle had previously reached. Richard Hammond, presenter of Top Gear, praised it as the best 4x4 of all time. In Australia, the vehicle was awarded 4WD of the Year by the 4WD Press. The Discovery 3 was planned to be assembled from complete knockdown kits at Ford's Vsevolozhsk plant in Russia, but the project was cancelled in 2007. In 2006, Land Rover used the Discovery 3 in its G4 Challenge, alongside the Range Rover Sport. The vehicles used were all in standard mechanical form, except for the fitment of additional Land Rover off-road equipment. The first all-new model placement since the Freelander, the Range Rover Sport is based on the Discovery 3 platform, rather than on the larger Range Rover. A 2008 to 2009 facelifted model of the Discovery 3 offered a Harman Kardon stereo system upgrade, 6 CD changer, clear side indicator lights, and body color bumpers. A driverless version of the LR3 finished fourth in the DARPA Urban Challenge.